Will the clerk please call the roll?
Allen.
Here.
Eckhart.
Here.
Benson.
Here.
Knowlton.
Here.
Valencia. Fisher.
Here.
Stelling.
Here.
Hannaford.
Here. Item number 4 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at City Council meetings will be approved by one vote of the council. Any member of the council desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items: approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 5th, 2015, and approval of claims in the amount of $349,092.43 and payroll expenses of $97,456.64. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Miller, second by Councilman Benson to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Miller.
Yes.
Benson.
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes.
Knowlton.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Stelling.
Yes.
Eckhart.
Yeah.
Next item, reports from boards and officers. A sanitation committee meeting from October 5th, 2015. Mr. Benson.
We met right after our council meeting the last time, and we discussed the transfer station, which is still in process, getting close to being finished and usable. And we also discussed the annual, I lost my train of thought on what we call them, waivers for sewage and trash on some water meters, and what we need to do with those and how to proceed. And does that cover about everything we discussed?
Yep.
Anybody have any questions for Bryce or Jodan? All right, thank you, Bryce. Next items, Mr. Miller, if you give us Airport Commission meeting and Finance Committee reports.
The Airport Commission met last Monday, or Tuesday, and up to this time, the airport's never had a policy on the courtesy car, and so we've been developing that. A few more minor changes, and they'll have that hammered out. And also a policy for fueling at private hangars and at the airport-owned hangars for the fuel truck. There's never been a policy in place on what's expected when somebody calls to have fuel. So the board is currently in the process of developing that policy. And then the taxiway extension starts, I believe, this Friday. Jodan?
Actually, the rough dirt work should start tomorrow.
So starts tomorrow. The county will be doing the dirt work, and then the company doing the rest of the work will have 90 days to complete that. So that project should be wrapped up right after the first of the year. And that will be it for the airport board. On the finance committee, we had our standard discussion of claims and investments. A little more talk on possible development behind Walmart, and we had a discussion on selling water in the industrial park to Tidewater Energy. Jodan's going to go back with them. The committee agreed that we believe that non-potable water, the new non-potable water pump should be used for that purpose as opposed to selling our potable water for tankers to take out into the oil field. Large claims this week. We have $446,000 out of the general fund. Of that, there's some large claims. One is for a project at the airport. One claim was for $140,000, the other for $79,000. Those were to Libra Electric to finish out the airport lighting process or project. Street and Alley Fund had $40,000 in material purchases. The Hotel Tax Fund had payments a little over $10,000. The majority of that was for the Big Cruise and Car Show, which was a huge success. Then we had large insurance payments to OMAG for $23,000 for property and vehicles. Standard debt
questions for Councilman Miller? All right. City Mayor's report. Haven't had too much the last couple of weeks. I did, after the last council meeting, the Tuesday following that, began a morning show, I guess, with KALV, 20-minute show or 20-minute show out there. Talk about some of the stuff going on at council meeting and things that are coming up. Also had the opportunity to attend, along with Councilman Hannaford was there as well, but Northwest Tech's ribbon cutting today for the addition they had to their building. Has been kind of quiet city-wise for the last couple weeks, for me anyway. So I see Tim sitting out here. We have been working on with a small committee of citizens that are dealing with the Cultural Enterprise District and some wayfinding signage stuff, and have asked OG&E to work with us on some streetlight pole options for that project that will hopefully be whatever they'll be able to help with, and then that group will be able to find some grant funding to move forward with some downtown revitalization projects. But that will be my report, unless anybody has any questions. Mr. Dunham.
Well, I'll start off with giving an overview of the finances. We finished through September. We finished out the first quarter of the budget year. During this time frame, we've collected about $2.9 million, which is about 21% of our budget, and we've spent about $3.9 million, which is about 31% of our annual budget. The major contributor to this high expenditure rate is capital improvement capital projects that we've got going on. Some of the big ones that we have going on is $625,000 for our AMR project, which should start tomorrow. They'll start replacing meters on that. There should have been a phone call that went out to the books 1 through 5, and that's where they're starting, and letters also went out to those individuals. We will be notifying people as we go through the project, and via letter and phone notifications as we get closer to their houses and closer to doing their area of town. Another one of the big projects that we signed off on was that is part of the $3.9 million is the $700,000 airport project that is grant funded through FAA. That should start here also tomorrow. We've also just wrapped up the Libra project, which was a little over $200,000, and that's for lighting out at the lighting of the taxiways and the new runway at the airport. But those would be our major projects that we've got underway. We do have some equipment purchases that we kind of need to look at. We've got some vehicles that we need to kind of look at retiring the vehicle that's in service and purchasing new. It's sometime in the near future, but we've also purchased a couple of other vehicles for Rec Park and some other places that were their vehicle was very used. With some of those projects, we'll be having a equipment auction through sealed bid to get rid of some of our equipment that we're no longer going to be using. And for our finances, we can see that our sales taxes were down about 18%. Our charges for services are down about 12% from last year's actual. As far as our budget is concerned, the one that would be the most concerning would be our services, and that's because that's our utility bills collections, and our utility billing collections is down from the budget of about 4.8%. We're going to be watching that real close. Our sales tax down from budget is only about 4%. So we're running about what we budgeted for on those items. As far as our expenditures are concerned, when we look at in comparing back to last year, when we look at our operating areas such as personnel services, materials and supplies, capital, other services and charges, and debt service, we're running pretty good with where we were at last year and even the year before, about even with those. The big expenditure rate, again, is, of course, the capital improvement items. With our projects, touched on it a little bit earlier, the airport taxiway extension project, the rough dirt work should start tomorrow. We anticipated this taking about a 2-week time frame to get finished. They think that it should be done quicker than that. We signed the notice to proceed for Nash dated the 26th of this month. So Nash will have 90 days to complete the remainder of that construction for that taxiway extension. Again, the AMR project should be started tomorrow. They should be putting meters in tomorrow. We'll be working on books 1 through 5. We are advertising on the 23rd of this month for our Young Street water line replacement project, with expected bid openings of November 13th. The transfer station, we're working with OG&E to try to get our electricity to the building. They've been working real well with us on this. We still don't have electricity to the building yet. There needs to be a transfer former hung and some lines run over to the building. That'll allow us to check out all the electrical that we've got going on in the building. The concrete ramps for the entrances have been completed. The street department was out working today on rocking the ramp and lining the ramp with the concrete barriers that we received. We've got a little bit more work to do as far as rock for street work around the building, and we've got some plumbing issues to get taken care of. It's been challenging trying to get a licensed plumber to go out there and actually do the little bit of plumbing that we need to get done. But I do expect to have prices in on that by tomorrow, and we should be able to award that tomorrow for them to get started. We will be pushing the October 30th deadline that I had to submit it to DEQ, but I think we'll still manage that, at least as of now. Positions that we have open right now, we do have one police officer position open, an ambulance paramedic position, and a part-time EMT basic position. Some of the meetings that we have coming up on the 21st, we'll have a tourism meeting along with an ARC meeting. I'll be attending a water law conference in Enid as part of the panel on October 22nd. Also on October 22nd is the newly elected officials training, which Councilman Melton, Eckhart, and Stelling are all signed up for. That'll be at the Woodward Convention Center. I have not heard back from anybody about the OML district dinner that'll be held that night in Woodward at Big Dan's Steakhouse. So if anybody would like to attend that dinner, please let me know as soon as possible so I can make sure you get signed up for it. On the 26th through the 27th, Councilman Miller and I will be attending the Oklahoma Town Hall meetings. The topic of this meeting is the topic of this session's meeting will be state finances and taxing. We'll have the Planning Commission meeting on the 26th, regular schedule. We'll also have a special Planning Commission / Board of Adjustment meeting on the 27th for training. We've got Bryce Kennedy from Enid, an attorney from Enid, and as a recommendation from OML to teach a planning and board of adjustment class over rules and responsibilities. Then on November 5th, right now, I have a 522 district meeting planned at the courthouse. And Mayor and Council, that would be all, well, except for one other thing. You did receive in your packet a press release from State Representative Mark McCullough, which is asking for a House to examine strategic tax reform proposals. What the basis of this is that Representative McCullough wants the state to look at and have an interim study on to tax services within the state. I do not know what, at this time, I don't really know what kind of legs this may have underneath it and how far this will run. And typically, if the state taxes it as a sales tax, cities would also be able to receive that same sales tax. And as I find out more about that, I do expect that to probably be a big topic on next Sunday through Wednesday. But as I find out more, I'll certainly keep you informed about it. And that would be my report.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Dunham? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on the implementation of a City Council Board Handbook as a best practice policy.
We voted on that. We discussed this at the last meeting, and you authorized to proceed. So what I wanted to do is put the book in, not quite in its entirety. The only thing that would be missing out of the handbook, from what is published, would be the annual budget. The annual budget would be a portion of this that would be updated every year. But wanted to provide it to you to see if there were any additional comments that you may have about the subject matter, or anything that you'd like to see added, anything that you'd like to see taken out. I think this would be a wonderful tool for us to use, helping keep council members informed about projects annually, and also used as a recruiting tool for the demographics for economic development. I'd happy to be able to try to answer any questions that you may have about this document.
Is there any new language in there, or is it just a compilation of?
The new stuff that is in, the compilation of the economic development history, the tort claim, the Open Meeting Act, all that is pretty much the AUA Trust Authority. All that is pretty much historical data. This is the leases that we have in place and have had in place for years. The new language for the budgeting information will change annually. The new stuff that we will have in here that would be updated, it would not is new. It would be the organizational and the personnel, kind of outlining the powers of the city council, the organizational structure, what council's role with personnel would be, the code of conduct for elected and appointed officials. Other things that it's not new, but it's not trained or not been discussed a lot for our council members would be the conflicts of interest. These goes through and it outlines the what is a conflict of interest for a council member, and why we do some of the things we do there. And it also kind of outlines what a code of conduct would be with with elected officials for conflict of interest, and how that relates back to conflict of interest. The basis of this document came from the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group, who is our insurance carrier. And as part of our adoption of this document, they would provide at least annual training at no cost to the council or to the city, to the council for over this document. And best practices goes along with the videotape that we have that I've encouraged all the council members to watch. But the training seminar that we would have would end up, I would anticipate that to be be on a Saturday and be roughly 4 hours long.
It'll be something that changes every year, that's what we're talking about. Because you add and change things.
Some things would add and change every year, and we would have refresher courses on it annually. As we made changes, those would be brought out. The one thing, certainly that would change every year would be the budget document. The Personnel Committee has talked about it for quite some time. I don't know if I've covered it.
How did we come up with, or how did they come up with this map in here that says Alva market area? Page 4 of that report.
That was done, that document was prepared.
Bryce, do you remember the Alva Live 7, 8 years ago? That all came out of that Alva Live. It came from that, all that information, market area. Alex,
So that market area's got
Mansell put a lot of that together.
weird lines on there, holes in it.
No,
Yeah,
That makes sense to me.
that was developed through the Oklahoma Department of Commerce. This who developed this,
Okay,
the
so
demographic
that
in
was
the
done that
community.
many years ago. Why
It-
do
No,
we need
this
to-
was-
It's
this
the
is
same
updated.
thing that was done. It's
This
just
was
updated.
updated for 2015.
Oh, guess I missed that.
On page 3, you can see that it says first quarter 2015 on the population demographics, and that's
The original document did come out of the Alva Alive thing, but this one was updated for this document. It was updated in 2015. Any other questions that you may have or comments?
Well, the council action you've listed here is either recommend changes or recommend the development of a resolution to adopt the handbook as a best practice measure.
I mean, this is just this is a discussion and possible action. So yeah, that would be the next step. If there's no changes to be made to this document, the next step would be the development of the resolution to formally adopt it.
I'd like some more time to go through it personally.
Personnel Committee's been going over this for a little over a year now to get to this point, so we're ready to move on with the resolution. But if you need more time, it's 2 more weeks and you'll kill you.
council meeting. Give everybody time to thoroughly read through it.
Have all the updates been made on the history of Alva for the last?
I believe so. I've had a student working on that over the last couple of weeks and getting those up. I think all the updates that I had made comments on.
I think we do have just some minor errors anyway. Share medical centers, that information in that third to last paragraph
And that, of
needs
course,
updated.
well, and of course, this is information that I've been able to deem from historical records, so anything there that needs to be updated, we can certainly do
We
that.
could still make a motion to develop a resolution, couldn't we? And if there's changes to be made in it, they can be made after we adopt it, then, couldn't we, the next council meeting? Or how long would it take to adopt the, to get the resolution?
Resolution will be done, except for it will be as presented. So if there's changes that require to be made.
But we can do that now, and then if there's no changes to be made at the next council meeting, we can go ahead and adopt it. As opposed to just postponing for 2 weeks to see if there's anything that we want to change. We'd go ahead and vote to have the resolution done, so that if nobody's got anything they want to change or put in it, then we can do that at the next meeting.
The only problem that you'll have is if you do that and you come into this meeting and there are changes that just become discussed, then you'll have to postpone the resolution, table it, and a later date to get those changes. Because with a document this size, it's hard to go through and say we're going to pass the resolution subject to changes on pages 8, 9, 12, and 15. all that.
But there are documents within this document that's going to change yearly, right?
The demographic would change. The demographic information would change annually. The budget document would change annually.
Some of this in,
The the employee information would change annually. Yes, some of the detail information would change annually.
so is that what's going to be in the, would all that be stated in the resolution you're talking about, Wes, then making, or that all that would change annually, or?
Well, I think that the handbook itself, we're just adopting a policy that we're going to have this handbook and use it. The information within can change year to year. I don't think we're adopting it this year as it is.
Well,
And then-
and some of this stuff could potentially change without our action if we're talking about state statutes that are, put in here, which there are some.
So, I guess we have to adopt it every year.
It really probably is preferable to do that, rather than annual adoption, so that it's updated, it's reviewed by the council, and it's approved by the council as official handbook.
So I guess we're either going to have a motion to table to the next meeting, or we're going to have a motion to approve a resolution, or
Do we need a motion to table, or we just don't make a motion?
If you don't do anything, it's just gonna continue on to the next meeting, or whenever the business manager puts it back on. If you want it specifically for the next meeting, to be considered, whether you're gonna have a resolution, move to do that, just to table it to the next meeting.
I move to table until next meeting.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Councilman Miller, second by Councilman Melton, to table discussion and possible action on the implementation of a city council/board handbook as a best practice policy. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Miller,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Eckhart.
Yes.
Item number 8 is remarks and inquiries by citizens. Public comment will be limited, 2 minutes per speaker. Speaker must identify himself or herself. Is there any comment from the public? Item number 9, remarks and inquiries by council members. All right, we'll close the meeting of the Alva City Council and open up the meeting of the, which one are we? Alva Utility Authority. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miller.
Here.
Melton.
Here.
Benson.
Here.
Eckhart.
Here.
Valencia. Fisher.
Here.
Stelling.
Here.
Hannaford.
Item number 3 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AUA meetings will be approved by one vote of the authority. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items: approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 5, 2015, approval of claims in the amount of $12,360.61, and payroll expenses of $24,086.65. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Benson, a second by Councilman Fisher to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Benson.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Stelling. Eckhart.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes.
All right, we'll close the meeting. Have I missed something? Oh, thank you. Item 5, discussion on the proposed rate changes for water and sewer services.
Council, the city attorney is currently preparing a resolution to adopt this rate change, but I thought that it would be a good idea to have it here as a council discussion. There's no action to be taken on this particular matter, but just to kind of lay out and have the discussion to lay out the information and to tell why we were going through this exercise. As we've talked about earlier, we're going to install new water meters throughout the community, throughout our service area. We're going to an automatic reading program. Right now, the city of Alva has a mixture of cubic feet and gallon meters in service. The measurement which we use to calculate our bills is in cubic feet. So all of our rate structures right now are based upon a cubic foot, not a gallon. All the new meters will be in gallons, so it makes sense to move from the cubic feet measurement and calculation to a gallon measurement and calculation. The gallon is, more people understand, it's more universally understood as a unit of measurement than a cubic foot is. And that's the reason for this. As far as one of the other things that we would be moving to, the proposed rate, instead of a regressive rate where we have now. And what I mean by regressive, if you look on the current water rates table that you have, you've got your base rate for anything under 667 cubic feet. You're going to pay $19.22 for. Then anything from 667 cubic feet to 15,000 cubic feet, you're going to pay $1.62 per 100. And then anything over 15,000 cubic feet, you're going to pay 97 cents per 100 cubic foot. Being regressive, it goes down the more you use. The Water Committee, the Finance Committee, and as a recommendation from, as a best practice from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, we want to move to a progressive rate. That means that the rate would, as you use more, the rate would increase. We have worked, staff along with the Water and Sewer and the Finance Committee have worked real hard on developing a rate structure that would not impact as few people as possible. We didn't go into this with the idea of changing our rate structures for a rate increase. So the rate proposal that we've got right now is for residential rates from 0 to 5,000 gallons being $19.22. From 5,001 gallons to 50,000 gallons, you'd be billed $1.29 per 1,000 gallons. 50,000 to 112,500, you'd get billed $2.26 per 1,000 gallons. Anything over 112,500 gallons, you'd be billed at $3.23 for a residential, inside residential or commercial. The outside rates are geared for the same types of rate changes. There would be the introduction of a governmental or /school rate to try to have as small an impact on the governmental entities that we service, such as BJCC, the college, and the Alva Public Schools, to keep their rate for the time being as constant as we could, to get with them to have the conversations about changing and allow them to develop a budget that could accommodate a change in rate structure. The rate changes would be for both the water rates and the sewer rates, and based on the consumption that we have, you can see that going from cubic feet to gallons, total annual change in revenue would be $44,760 per year, or about $3,700 per month. With the projection of using the water, we developed this projection using the water usage from September of 14 to September of 15 on an average. We've got 1,599 people currently on minimum, that just gets a minimum bill. Minimum bills aren't going to change. It's going to be $19.22 for inside city limits. For the people that would fall in, the 873 people that would hit the second tier of that billing, they would actually see a small decrease in their bill. The people that hit the third tier of that billing, for those 25 people, they would also see a small decrease in their bill. The people that would see an increase would be the people that hit that fourth tier. Those 19 people or 19 customers that hit that fourth tier, or are the highest volume users of our water, they would see a small increase. And they would see that tier of group, 19 folks would see about a $6,000 a month increase. The governmental units would see about, the government or school districts would see about on average, about a $200, that tier group would see about a $200 a year increase, or a month increase. And rural water districts would remain essentially the same. On the sewer charges, revenues actually go down about $5,200 a year on average, using the September 14 through 15 consumption as the average, as the monthly average. Finance and
And
water, have I explained that?
Again, Joe Don, this is all based upon if your meter that you have now is reading correctly.
That is correct.
And the possibilities of it reading incorrectly might be high.
That is correct.
Particularly if you have an old meter.
Yes.
Yes.
So our best guess is that your meter's reading correctly to what a new meter's going to read. So, you know, if it's reading correctly, then what Joe Dom's told you and said will be correct, but might not be.
As water meters age, they allow water to pass through that's not metered. So it depends on the age of the meter.
How old were our water meters?
Huh?
How old were our water meters?
So I'd venture to guess, I don't know exactly, but I'd venture to guess some of our cubic foot water meters have never been replaced. But
Coming from the finance committee, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't want to increase anybody's bill. But then again, with trying to save water and to get people convinced to try to save water, we don't think you ought to be giving people a break for the more they buy, the less it is. So that's why we reversed that, suggested that. And that's one reason the fourth tier, the 19 people or 19 meters, are going to be charged so much more because they're having to pay for the more water they're using. But everybody else is the same or maybe just a touch lower. That was how we were kind of coming about what we were.
Well, part of that, like Joe Don said, that the Oklahoma Water Resource Board said that we weren't eligible for money that's out there because we had a regressing rate. It went down as you use more, and if we go to this progressive rate, there's money available for grants and that sort of thing for future projects. So that was a big kick for us to decide we need to get off of a progressive rate system because we're missing out on a lot of potential grant money.
do the people that are on that committee, they're not on one of either that water or that finance committee, do you understand the methodology that we use to, do you have any questions about the methodology we use to convert from the cubic foot to the gallon? this is just a discussion-only item. We do anticipate having a resolution before the council at the next,
The Finance Committee, just another side note, I guess, we do expect that and I believe you mentioned it, in the future that we will change the rates that we've got for governmental and school rates.
Mhm.
We just feel that because they work on the budget like we work, that you change something on them mid-budget, pretty difficult. So we're trying to hold them pretty close to what they already are at, so that Joe Don can try to work with them and explain to them.
And, and be honest with you, some of those users are some of our,
Bigger users.
BJCC is probably one of our largest single water consumption agencies.
Now, Joe Don, this says customers, but that's really meters, right?
That's meter, right.
So it could be or several meters on one customer.
Yes. Their accounts, that's separate accounts that we have.
Well, I
So
think to
if
have 2,600 meters and only have 19 of them see a significant increase is pretty good work, guys. Is there any further discussion? Now I'll close the meeting of the Alva Utility Authority, and we'll open the meeting of the Alva Economic Development Authority. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Melton.
Here.
Hannaford.
Here.
Stelling.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Eckhart. Benson.
Here.
Valencia. Fisher.
Here.
Item number 3 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AEDA meetings will be approved by one vote of the board. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items: approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 5th, 2015, and approval of claims in the amount of $2,478.74 and payroll expenses of $5,010.23. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Fisher, a second by Dr. Hannaford to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Fisher.
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Benson.
Yes.
Eckhart.
Yes.
Stelling.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you.